So Trump's war on trans people has commenced. In the first term, he banned trans people from the military. I believe he already reinstated the ban on trans people in the military on day one. They also crafted an executive order to say we only recognize two genders, male and female, but the way they worded it, they actually fucked it up, and they talked about conception. And my understanding is they effectively made all Americans legally female by how they worded this document. So, I mean, they're already showing their ignorance colossally. But some of this stuff has really taken a dark turn. So let me walk you through this. This is in the New York Times. Trump bars transgender women from U.S. prisons for female inmates. In an executive order, the president also moved to end gender-related medical treatments for trans people in prison. So I'll get to the first part in a second, but let's talk about this one real quick. End gender-related medical treatments for trans people in prison. Now, I'm sure there's gonna be lawsuits over this because here's the bottom line: to the extent that modern medicine has concluded that medical treatment to end gender dysphoria includes, hormone treatment or surgery, or in some cases, if they're young enough, puberty blockers. To the extent medical science says, no, this actually works for X percentage of people who have gender dysphoria, you can't just be like, we're stopping that, right? That would be like saying we're banning the use of antibiotics to treat strep throat in prisons. My guess is that'd be blocked because it's like, well, if you're in prison, you get healthcare, right? Everybody gets healthcare, right? So you're in prison and you need healthcare. Why can the government arbitrarily come in and say, hey, this thing that we know works, you're not allowed to give this thing for this illness? Effectively, the doctor's position would be, I don't really care what you have to say. This is the treatment that's given, right? So I don't know if it's going to hold up. It might actually get struck down. But of course, the right-wing position on this is there is no such thing as gender-related medical treatments, right? They don't think being trans is an actual thing. So they think it's all basically like an elective procedure, that you don't actually need it, you just want it. And so that's why to them, they'd be saying, this is like, banning a woman from getting breast implants in prison, which when you hear that, you go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's an elective procedure. You don't need that. But that's the core of the debate, right? Is that the right says, hey, any gender-related medical treatments it's not real. This isn't like they actually need it. Whereas medical science says, no, of course, in many instances, people with gender dysphoria, this is the treatment that helps to ease the symptoms. So they're going to give it. So again, we'll see what happens with it. My guess is there are going to be lawsuits. And I actually slightly lean on the side of, I think they're going to strike down what the government is trying to do here. At least this portion of it. All right, now let's get to the rest of it. President Trump has ordered federal prisons to house inmates who are transgender women in men's facilities and halt medical treatments related to gender transition. The move was part of a wide-ranging executive order issued by Trump on his first day in office meant to limit government recognition of an individual's gender to their sex at birth. The directive on prisoners also applies to immigration detainees and is among the more concrete parts of the order. Mr. Trump set some restrictions on housing and healthcare for trans prisoners in his previous term, but the new order was more far-reaching. Now, by the way, like I saw, Caitlyn Jenner's been out there supporting Trump, supporting MAGA, cheering on Republicans this entire time. If my understanding of the wording of this executive order is correct, they are telling Caitlyn Jenner, you will continue to be a man. Your driver's license is going to say male. It should say male, and nobody should really refer to you as female. So does she not understand that? Like, where's the disconnect here, right? The Women's Liberation Front, which defines women based on sex at birth and advocates single-sex prisons, called the directive a major victory. The group is challenging a California law that allows prisoners to request housing that aligns with their gender identity. It argues that the law violates the constitutional rights of female inmates who are not transgender, including the Eighth Amendment right to protect from cruel and unusual punishment. So here's the thing. It's not like there's no data on this, right? We have data on this. What happens when you put trans women in the men's prison? Well, you can go look this up yourself. You'll find out that it's true very quickly. V-coding refers to the practice of assigning trans women placed in men's prisons to cells with aggressive cisgender male cellmates as both a reward and a means of placation for said cellmates, so as to maintain social control and to, as one inmate described it, keep the violence rate down. Trans women used in this manner are often raped daily. This process has been described as so common that it is effectively a central part of a trans woman's sentence. It is common for correctional officers to publicly strip search trans women inmates before putting their bodies on display for not only the other correctional officers, but for the other prisoners. Trans women in this situation are sometimes made to dance or masturbate at the correctional officer's discretion. The prisoners serving as customers for these women are informally referred to as husbands. A 2021 California study found that 69% of trans women prisoners reported being forced to perform sexual actions against their will. 58.5% reported being violently sexually assaulted, and 88% overall reported being made to take part in a marriage-like relationship. Trans women who physically resist the customer's advances are often criminally charged with assault and placed in solitary confinement. The assault charge then being used to extend the woman's prison stay and deny her parole. Let me repeat that. A 2021 California study found that 69% of trans women prisoners reported being forced to perform sexual acts against their will. This is what happens when you put trans women in with the men. They get violently and viciously taken advantage of. Now, here's my question for you. You think the Republicans that drafted this executive order, you think they don't know that? You think they're just ignorant to that reality? No, I think they know that. They know that, and they don't care. And they're fine with it. And they support this happening to trans women as a form of punishment because they think this is degeneracy. Trans people aren't real. Get over it. And you should be punished for being trans. This is going to massively spike violence against trans women. Massively. But again, that may be the point. So the whole cover story about how, oh, bro, we need to lower the violence rate, which is why we're doing this. We don't want these trans women with biological women because the trans women are going to assault the biological women. In the aggregate, the violence will go up. The sexual assaults will go up. The damage will go up. But I think they know that, and I think that's the point. Because they are engaged in a war on trans people. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. Like, the cruelty is the point, right? The cruelty is the point. That's why, hey, no more treatments. We're against trans healthcare treatment, period. Want to ban no trans treatments, right? And also, if you're a trans woman, get in there with the men. And I know how that's going to end up. I don't really care, or I actively support it. That's how they're thinking. So, it's dark. It's very dark. Now, remember, compare this and contrast this with what did Trump say in 2016 when he was asked about these issues? The bathroom bill and what was it? North Carolina, I believe, was a big issue at the time. And Trump basically was like, shut the fuck up and let people go to the bathroom wherever they want to go to the bathroom. And he was asked if Caitlyn Jenner goes to Mar-a-Lago, would Caitlyn Jenner be allowed to use the women's bathroom? And he was like, yeah, of course. Who cares? Now that guy, because of a massive uptick in far-right obsession with this issue, that guy has now moved to this perspective. If he was asked that same question today, he wouldn't answer the same, would he? This is a hideously grotesque and violent executive order from Trump. And the results will be catastrophic. And by the way, let's be clear. It's not like, even if you wanted to say, which I don't, but even if you wanted to say, hey, we can find some sort of compromise on this, right? You can set up a situation where biological men are with biological men, biological women are with biological women, and then there's a trans women prison or part of a prison. And there's a trans male prison or part of a prison. You could have done it like that. You could have separated everything out, right? You could have done that. They don't want to do that. It's not like they didn't consider that. They did consider that. The cruelty is the point. The violence is the point. And this is what's at the heart of the MAGA movement. This is what they believe in. And everybody needs to understand that. Everybody needs to get that through their head. And everybody needs to understand this does not get worked with. This gets defeated come hell or high water. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.